Fifth grade Excel, lesson 5. 5. Interpreting circle graphs, picture graphs, bar graphs, and line graphs. So we're going to be looking at a bunch of different kinds of graphs today. You need to understand which graph is which and why you would use each graph. Why do we have different types of graphs? So the first part here in the circles rectangle thing, circle or pie graphs are used primarily to organize data. Picture graphs use symbols and pictures to compare data. Bar graphs also compare data. And line graphs are used to show change, usually change over time. And so these are the different kinds of graphs we're looking at. Circle graphs or pie graphs, that's what this is right here, this first one that you can see. And that's just to organize it so you have a real quick picture of how, which thing is the most popular, or which has the most and which has the least. That kind of thing, you can just glance at it and see that right away. Picture graphs, you can compare between one answer and another, say on a survey. Bar graphs, same thing. And then line graphs, completely different function. A line graph is where things are changing over time. So let's take a look at our first pie graph or circle graph here. It says at the heading of the graph, balls in the equipment box. And so we know that that is what this pie graph is all about. And then we have basketballs. You can see that it has a picture of 3 right there. Soccer balls, quite a few more. Footballs, even more. And then baseballs, the most of all. And so it asks you the question, if a student takes a ball from the equipment box at random, that means that they just close their eyes and pick one. Which ball has the lowest probability of being selected? In other words, which one would they least likely pick? And of course, by looking at this, you can see that there's the fewest of the basketballs, and so you would circle basketballs as the correct answer. Go ahead and do that on your paper, and then we'll move on to the next part. Here's a picture graph. All right, it says taking photographs up at the top, and then it has different names. So evidently these different people were taking pictures. Notice that each picture of a camera represents 2 photos. And the picture on my screen is a little bit messed up. This should be an entire camera like that, which I'm pretty sure it's going to look like that on your paper. So that means that Glenn, he's got a picture of a whole camera here, took 2 photos. If you see a half of a camera like this one right here, then that's going to represent half of 2 or 1. So we have this one here that's 2, and then the other one that's 1. This person took a total of 3 pictures. Who took fewer than 4 photographs is the first question here. Well, let's go ahead and write the number of photos that each person took so that we can know how to answer this question most easily. Here we have 2, 4, 6, 8. Each one of the pictures, you remember, represents 2. You always have to look at the bottom to see what those pictures are representing. Here we have 2, 4, 6. We already determined that this is 3 and that one's 2. It says who took fewer than 4. Now some kids would pick Carly as taking fewer than 4, but that's not correct. She took 4, that's not fewer than 4, that is 4. So the only kids that took fewer than 4 were Ruthie and Glenn, because 3 is fewer than 4 and 2 is fewer than 4. So it says who took fewer than 4 photographs? The answer would be Ruthie and Glenn. It doesn't say how many kids, it says who took them. You got to make sure you read your questions carefully on the Excel. The next one says how many more photos. Let me double check that. Yeah. How many more photos does Glenn need to take to catch up with Barry? So if Glenn has taken 2 and he wants to catch up with Barry, he's taken 8, and so to catch up would have to take 6 more. So the correct answer is 6 photos. Now be careful on your labels. You always need to put labels with word problems. And the question says how many more photos, and so the answer is 6 photos. All right, let's see on this bar graph here. First of all, looking at the heading, jump rope and jumping rope, and we see that we have Hunter, Gary, Delia, Isabel, and Martin. And then you can follow each bar and come over to the side, and you can figure out how many minutes this person was jumping rope. You got to look at these labels that are on the side like this so you understand what the numbers mean. I mean, is that 20 jumps? Is that 20 hours? Is that 20 miles jumping rope? You've always got to look at this label over here so you have that straight. Let's take a look at the questions. Actually, what I'd like you to do now that we've done the first few together, pause the video, see if you can do this one on your own, and then turn it back on when you're ready to see what the correct answers are. Okay, the first one says, for how many minutes did Gary and Delia jump rope? We see that Gary jumped for 20, and Delia jumped for in between 20 and 30. Comes right over to here, so you have to think what number would come right smack in the middle of 20 and 30. That would be 25. So altogether, between the two of them, and you do need to show your work on this, they would have 45 minutes of jumping rope. According to the chart, which two children jumped rope for the same number of minutes? You can do that by finding two bars that are the same height. And you can see that Martin and Hunter both jumped rope for 20 minutes. So we're going to write Martin and Hunter. If you wrote Hunter and Martin, that's fine. The order doesn't matter that you put their names. All right, here is a line graph. And it says, notice that the numbers along the left side do not start at 0. So right over here, we have a 30, and it goes up from there, and this is the temperature. That F with a little degree sign right there means Fahrenheit. There's two ways to measure temperature that we normally would use, Fahrenheit and Celsius. In the United States, most of the time we're using Fahrenheit. Most of the rest of the world uses Celsius. So this means 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, it says, okay, and so notice again that it starts at 30. We're not starting at 0 degrees, we're starting at 30 degrees there. Since the numbers from 0 to 29 are not needed, starting with 30 avoids wasting space. So what they're saying is, instead of drawing this graph that goes way down here and has all these spots where they're not even going to plot the temperature because the temperature never got that low, they just start the graph at 30. You can see the lowest temperature was actually 31. So 30 is kind of a nice place to start. Okay, there are two questions on here. I'd like you to go ahead and try these. They're a little bit tricky, but pause the video, try them, and then turn it back on to see the solutions. All right, first one says, what was the temperature change from the 6th day to the 7th day? And they should have down here days, so that we know that this is the 6th day and the 7th day. But they didn't write that, and so you go up from the 6th day, right here, the temperature on the 6th day was 31 degrees. The temperature on the 7th day, you don't have to draw this on your paper, I'm just drawing it so you can see where your eyes should be looking, was 35 degrees. And it says, what was the temperature change? Well, the change would be from 35 to 31. If we do a subtraction problem, we can figure out that it changed 4 degrees. And the way that you do this is you write 4 degrees Fahrenheit. A little tiny circle up there means degrees. All right, that one wasn't too tough, but it says the next one, how many days was the daily high temperature above 33 degrees? These are really tough for kids, so I hope you're paying super close attention right now. You're going to be seeing problems like this coming up on your daily work, and I almost always have to help kids with these. They're always tricky for them. What you want to do is go to each day and go up and put a dot where the temperature is. So actually skip day 1, there's day 1. Day 3, put a dot right there. Come down to the bottom, look at day 4, come straight up. Day 5, straight up. We've already done where day 6 and 7. And then day 8 and day 9. Okay, so if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and put that on your graphs, color in some dots there. You might have to pause the video in order to do that. And I'm going to move on. So the question again says, how many days was the daily high temperature above 33 degrees? Here's 33 degrees. If it is 33 degrees, it's not above 33 degrees. I like to draw a line on here just so I can for sure see it. Now that I have the dots on there and this line, it should be pretty easy for you to tell that this day right here is above 33 degrees and this day right here is above 33 degrees. So the correct answer is 2 days. There are 2 days, and make sure you get that label right. It's not 2 degrees or anything like that. It's the number of days that it was above 33 degrees. If you put the answer 4, then you chose the days that it was exactly 33 degrees that's not above 33 degrees. All right, the last part of your lesson says select the data to be collected, choose the type of graph, and then draw the graph below. This is for you to do an independent project, so if your teacher decides to do this with you, great. If not, then this part of your lesson will be blank. We're not going to do that together on the video right now, but what it's designed for is that you can collect some data and then make a graph on this white part showing what the results of your data is. So thanks for watching.